Dave Grohl is awesome. From drumming in Nirvana to singing in Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl has been a key figure of rock for over 30 years. Along with endless awards and huge moments in music, Grohl has also been rightfully given the title of nicest guy in rock, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and proof that not everyone in the music business is awful. This video looks at 10 reasons why Dave Grohl is awesome. This is not a deep biographical dive going into microscopic details, and it's not just going to be about the personal career discography, but rather this is just a short list of reasons why Dave Grohl is awesome and why he is still getting respect around the world. Side note, his book The Storyteller is great and will be referenced here a bit. Check it out if you can. I recommend the audiobook where he's narrating it himself. Grohl is not one to ignore the future of drumming and has gone out of his way to give credit where it's due, especially where young drummers are proving they know how to cover his own material. There are several examples of the man addressing young drummers and making sure the work is appreciated. Two examples worth pointing out with this. The first being Nandy Bushell, with who Dave Grohl once called his arch nemesis. After a back and forth online, Grohl accepted the loss to Nandy and agreed to write Nandy her own theme song and invited her to play on stage with Foo Fighters at the Forum in LA. It was great and everyone loved it. Another example being at the time 9-year-old Yoyoka Soma, who went viral for covering Led Zeppelin. She was invited to make an appearance on Ellen and told DeGeneres that Dave Grohl was her favorite drummer. Little did she know, Grohl found out and sent a video message to Soma who encouraged her to keep it up. Think about how many young kids have musicians they look up to and never get to have any interaction with them, and then here comes Dave Grohl going out of his way to support and encourage. Grohl has supported, donated to, and promoted many charities over the years to the point where the title philanthropist is acceptable, but it does not just end with financial donations and signed guitars. The rock star is quite the star behind a barbecue grill, and along with his own establishment, Backbeat Barbecue, Grohl has personally served others. Not just sending food either. Several times he has gotten behind the grill on location to provide service to people. One example in 2018 when he brought his grills and meat to the Calabasas fire station during the massive wildfires that were going on that year. Another example in 2018 was during the Christmas season where he brought the Backbeat Barbecue Company to the Los Angeles Food Bank. The staff, equipment, and Dave himself were there for a total of 36 hours, with Dave cooking and serving food himself. Along with a massive number of charities Grohl has promoted and supported for decades, it's worth pointing out that he is willing to do the physical work for charity on a true personal level. In a world where celebrities and rock stars don't always give as much as they could, Grohl is willing to put in the work for strangers in need. As Mr. T once said, treat your mama right. Dave Grohl helps embody the notion, and Dave's mom, Virginia Grohl, has always been Dave's #1 fan, so Dave in turn has helped his mother get her own projects off the ground, including From Cradle to Stage, a book and eventual television series looking at rock star moms and the shenanigans they had to deal with. Virginia Grohl was the one to originally support Dave leaving school and starting down the rock and roll lifestyle, which Dave talks about in his own book. Virginia's book and show on Paramount Plus, From Cradle to Stage, gives her own experience writing with Dave and what it was like to raise an aspiring musician. On the flip side, with The Storyteller, Dave tells how he would always call home to reassure his mother that things were going well on the road in the 80s. It's a unique story about schoolteacher Virginia Grohl raising a son who, of his own admission, was not a great student, who would eventually drop out and become a full-time drummer. When Dave told his mom his plans to drop out, Virginia's response was, "You better be good." Dave proved he was, and things turned out just fine. If you've ever seen Dave perform live in any capacity, you know that he is all about making a concert a great experience for everyone. He's embraced the stadium rock side and appreciates when crowds gather to hear his music, from Foo Fighters to side projects, and concerts are meant to be a good time, and Grohl understands that. He also calls out idiots who try to ruin it. There are several examples of this, unfortunately, but I'm glad that Dave Grohl is willing to stop a show when someone is acting up, whether that's fighting or other repulsive acts. One of the best examples called live, and I'll just let the video speak for itself.
Stop. No. You don't fight at my show, you. Who's that right there? Let me see him. Hey, in the striped shirt. Look at me right here. Look at me. Get the out of my show right now. Get the out of my show. You don't come to my show and fight. You come to my show and dance. You.
It sucks that stuff like this still happens and can happen at any concert or festival, but it's also good to know that there are big names in the industry that are still willing to hit the brakes and address the situation. In this case, throwing someone out for trying to start a fight during a Foo Fighters concert of all places. One of the interesting abilities of Dave Grohl, or rather how he works as a musician, is that he uses synesthesia. This is another thing he talks about in The Storyteller when he was young. Dave is able to visually see music when he hears it and can shape it to specific items or words. In Grohl's case, it's something that most people people are familiar with.
According to Dave Grohl, he learns the structure of songs by imagining them as different colored Lego. Literally stacks and shapes of Lego in different colors and sizes that complete a track. I'm truly surprised that Lego has not reached out to Grohl for some type of sponsorship or commercial or something. That would be perfect. According to WebMD, the truest source of medical knowledge ever, synesthesia is when you hear music but you see shapes. Synesthesia is a fancy name for when you experience one of your senses through another. Dave hears music and sees different colored Lego. I now want Foo Fighters album covers in Lego.
Most people that know Foo Fighters know the song My Hero. It's a 90s staple and iconic for the band and rock in general. One thing that Dave Grohl has done over the decades is dedicate this song to different people in specific situations where he sees fit. This has ranged from presidential candidates, healthcare workers, lost loved ones, and more.
My Hero was written about the everyday man doing extraordinary things, according to Grohl. Foo Fighters have taken special circumstances to dedicate this song live to specific people in the past. Examples include the Swedish medic who helped Dave Grohl with his broken leg while being tended to on stage, presidential candidates Barack Obama and Joe Biden while they were taking office as president for the first time, and Pauly Shore's dad, where Foo Fighters were performing live at Sonic Temple, and Shore was also performing shortly after Shore's father passed away. Classy act from a classy man and band.
People know Dave Grohl for Nirvana, for Foo Fighters, but it can't be stressed enough how many bands Grohl has filled in for, side projects created, and collaborations made in his career. He has played with so many big names in different genres of music that it's hard to keep up. I'm gonna try and list a bunch of them now, but please keep in mind, I will not catch them all.
For starters, Grohl recorded and performed live with Queens of the Stone Age, most notably for Songs for the Deaf. Grohl co-founded the supergroup Them Crooked Vultures with Queens of the Stone Age singer Josh Homme and Led Zeppelin bassist John Paul Jones. Grohl also had one-time side projects including the Heavy Probot with a massive amount of guest musicians including Lemmy, Max Cavalera, Jack Black, Kim Thale, and more. Dave also frequently played with Tenacious D and would also work with names like Ghost, Corey Taylor, and Paul McCartney. I know there are many examples I'm missing, but just look at the names and examples I've listed in the past minute and how much Dave Grohl has accomplished outside of Nirvana and Foo Fighters. There's a reason he's so appreciated in the industry.
Many famous musicians and celebrities wouldn't dare go into a massive concert or festival crowd, especially without security or entourage. The normies are just too scary in any circumstance. Dave Grohl has never have that mindset. There have been many times the man has been seen in the crowd of concerts soaking in the experience with the fans.
One great example was at a Soundgarden show in 2011 where Dave Grohl was seen high-fiving and jumping with other fans in the crowd at the show. No security escort, no one with Grohl around him in the crowd, just Soundgarden fans all mixed together while everyone was having a good time. There are other good examples of this over the years, but it proves that Grohl really is a man for the music. It's not a status or fame thing. He was raised on rock, punk, and metal when he was growing up, and that appreciation for a live music experience, both in small clubs and massive stadiums, it's stayed the same over the years.
Most people are aware of the story and visual now as it's made headline news years ago, but it's worth bringing up just to make the point. Dave Grohl gives people their money's worth and does not want to disappoint his fans. That's a feeling shared by most musicians, but when the man breaks his leg during a show and refuses to quit, it shows his dedication a bit more than most.
In The Storyteller, Grohl describes the chain of events, including telling the medic that he refused to go to the nearest hospital 30 minutes away to get a cast, and insisted the medic hold his foot while Grohl was carried on stage so that his ankle didn't dislocate again, and then continued to perform while getting treated with his one leg sticking out. In his book, he talked about how he took a shot of Crown Royal and bit down hard on leather while his foot was reset in place. It was not a minor injury. Grohl was told later he needed surgery. I think even Dave knew how serious things were when he was being held back on stage with someone holding his foot in place for fear of moving it. He still wanted to give the people what they paid for. In rock and every other genre of music, we've seen musicians cancel shows early or walk off for some lame reasons. Then you have Dave Grohl, who powered through what clearly was a lot of pain. He proved the show must go on.
This might be one of my favorite things about Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl, and possibly about any musician ever. The Westboro Baptist Church, with their extreme harassment and shock value protests, have crossed the line many times. And they know Dave Grohl on a close level, because Dave has gone out of his way to troll the cult for years. My words cannot do justice to how amazing the trolling has gotten.
In 2011, many of the Westboro Baptist idiots came to protest the Foo Fighters with extreme signs and chants at a concert. Foo Fighters in return dressed up and performed on a flatbed truck right in front of the protest just to mess with them in counter-protest. everyone around loved it besides those extreme fanatics. Something similar happened in Kansas City in 2015, where Westboro once again came to protest with some sinister signs and chants to the public. Foo Fighters decided to go traditional with their trolling and literally rickrolled Westboro Baptist Church by blasting Rick Astley and holding up signs saying the church got rickrolled. Most recently in 2021, Dave and the band went to Westboro's territory in Kansas at the DGs, the Foo Fighters disco alter ego, and started giving a disco sermon about not hating one another. I don't think Westboro got the message. Dave Grohl has accomplished a lot. Listing off every accomplishment would take far too long. He should be remembered though as a musician who did things the hard way and refused to give up no matter what stage of life he was in and was willing to help out others. We need more Dave Grohls in rock. And those are just 10 reasons why Dave Grohl is awesome. There are definitely more than 10. So what else does everyone like about him? Leave a comment and let everyone know. Big thanks to my patrons and special thanks to Chris Doman and Dom Noble. You can have a say in upcoming videos, get weekly new music playlists, and see videos early by supporting Rocked on Patreon. Please click the link in the video description on how you can help the channel. Please subscribe and ring the bell to get notified of upcoming videos, and you can keep up to date with Rocked on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And I'm up for suggestions on who should be on the next video for who people think is awesome. Leave a comment and let me know if you have a good choice.